So now we are going to study about income from salary in this session. Session number is 20. Title of the topic is income from house property. Learning objective is to understand the income from house property and how to compute income from house property. The outcome of the session will be students will familiar with the income from house property, compute meaning of house property, computation of house property, and the various deductions available as per Income Tax Act. Now we will study to try to understand income from house property. As I said earlier, for taxation purpose, we are dividing the sources of income into five categories. That is one first one income from salary, second one income from house property, and third one income from business and profession, and fourth one income from capital gains, and fifth one income from other sources. That is starting from section 15 to section 56. House property consists of any building or land appertaining thereto of which the SSC is the owner. So, for any house of which the SSC is the owner, the buildings include residential building, whether self-occupied or let out for any purpose, office building, factory building, godowns, flats, right? As long as they are not used for business or profession by owner himself. Section 22 of the Income Tax Act defines the basis of charge under the head income from house property, which income can be charged to tax under section 20 through 22 of the Income Tax Act. It states that annual value of the property consists of any building or lands appertaining to thereto of which the SSC is the owner shall be chargeable under the head income from house property. Basic conditions to calculate income from house property or to treat any property as house property. In order to tax any income under this head, the following basic conditions must be satisfied. Namely, the property should consist of any building or land appertaining to thereto. That means any type of building, right? Any type of construction or building or box like shape of buildings. The SSC should be the owner of the property. To charge tax on income from house property, the SSC should be the owner. The property should not be used by the owner for the purpose of any business or profession carried on by him. If it is so, it cannot be chargeable to tax under income from house property. The profits of which are chargeable to income tax. Unless all the aforesaid conditions or above conditions are satisfied, the property income cannot be charged to tax under the head income from house property. So to charge, the basic condition is to charge tax on house property, any building of which SSC is the owner and which is not used by the SSC for carrying out his own business or profession, right? Then only it can be charged. Deemed ownership. As per section 27 of the following persons are deemed to be owners of the property. Although they are not the legal owners, however, they are deemed to be the owner of such buildings. They are transferred to a spouse or a minor child, a child below age of 18 years. If an individual transfers any house property to his or her spouse, minor child without adequate consideration, the transferor in that case is deemed to be the owner of the house property so transferred. That is, transferor will be liable for the payment of tax on the same. However, this would not cover cases where property is transferred to a spouse or minor married daughter in connection with an agreement to live apart. If it is so, no liability. Next, holder of an impartial asset, member of a cooperative society, person in possession of a property, person having a right in a property. These are all parties, they are considered as deemed owners for the charging of tax under the head called income from house property. Any one of the place or part thereof an exempted properties, that is house properties. Any one place or part thereof an ex ruler, provided the same is not let out. 10 subsection 19a. Tax point of view is that the ex ruler has house property and the part of which is self occupied and remaining let out, then only the self occupied part of the house property shall be exempted. Let out part will be taxed, or income from let out house property will be taxed, but if the house is used for its own residence, then it will be exempted. House property of a local authority, section 10, subsection 20. House property of a approved scientific research association, then house property of an educational institution, for that there is no tax. House property of a hospital, house property of a person being resident of Ladakh, that is the special privilege given to such regions. House property of a political party, house property of a trade union, right? If that buildings or property is there, it is exempt from tax. Next, computation of net annual value of house property and how to compute the net taxable amount from house property. That is computation of a net annual value of house property. The measure of charging income tax under this head is the annual value of the property. Is the inherent capacity of building to yield income. The expression annual value has been defined under section 23 of the Income Tax Act. To determine the annual value of the house property or net annual value, the following points must be understood. There are some basic elements that we have to understand. The basic terminologies. That is expected rent. It is the rent reasonably expected to be let out from year to year. Municipal value. It is the value determined by the municipality of municipal authorities. Fair rent. It is the amount which a similar property can fetch in the same or similar locality if it is let out for a year. Fair rent. Then standard rent is the rent fixed by the government as per this Rent Control Act. Okay, actual rent is the actual amount of rent received or receivable for the let out period. Municipal taxes includes any taxes levied by any municipality or local authority. Deduction in respect of municipal taxes determining the annual value of the house property will be allowed. So while calculating annual value, from gross annual value you can deduct municipal taxes to get the net annual value. The gross annual value shall be the higher of expected rent or actual rent. First, you have to calculate expected rent. Expected rent is equals to actual rent. Sorry, expected rent is equals to fair rent or municipal value, whichever is higher, but not more than the standard rent. Expected rent is the higher of municipal value or fair rental value, but subject to standard rent because expected rent cannot be higher than the standard rent fixed by the fixed as per the Rent Control Act. This, to be very simple, we can say we have to calculate the expected rent. Step one. Under that, expected rent is equals to municipal value and the fair rent, whichever is higher, but it should not be more than the standard rent, which is fixed by the Rent Control Act. Okay, we will continue in the next session. Thank you for being with me. Thank you.